presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox. We are Ohio.
Live from the Steel City of Pittsburgh and PNC Park, Fox Sports Ohio brings you Cincinnati Reds baseball. Tonight, the Reds make their second of 3 trips to the city by the river to take on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hi, hello, and welcome to Pittsburgh, everyone. Along with the crafty left-hander Chris Welch, I'm George Grant. Well, these are two teams heading in different directions. The Pirates have lost 5 of 6. The Reds have won 6 straight series since the All-Star break. We've talked a lot about the pitching, but Chris, the hitting and defense have been part of it too.
You can't just win it only with pitching. You got to have good defense because that makes your pitching better. And obviously, you have to score some runs. And when you get production from the bottom of the lineup, that's when it really helps out. Eugenio Suarez is one of those guys that has really come on and swinging the bat very, very well. He's making great defensive plays as well. He's a guy that's still making the transition from shortstop to third defensively because the plays are not the same. The ball gets on you differently down there, but little by little, he is getting better and better in the field.
Better and better. That is exactly what the Pirates are hoping for. While Suarez has been playing well, the other side of the story for the Pittsburgh Pirates has been a little bit different because while Eugenio Suarez has been playing well, this guy, the man who really drives the train in center field, has not been really pulling his weight, Chris.
Well, that 241 batting average you see, that is the worst of his career, and it is not a misprint either. They're wondering what is going on with this guy. He's only 30 years old, so he hasn't hit the downside of his career physically, they don't think. In fact, he was going so bad that he was benched the last few nights when the Pirates were down in Atlanta to play the Atlanta Braves. So, you know, they've got him back in the lineup tonight. He's batting in the number 3 spot, but their hopes really ride on the bat and the arm of Andrew McCutchen.
Speaking of the arm, boy, Anthony DeSclafani's been something else for the Reds.
He really has. I mean, he's undefeated. He's 6-0 overall. He's making his 11th start tonight. But the remarkable thing about DeSclafani, even after missing all the time that he did in spring training and the early part of the year, he has come out and thrown strike after strike after strike. He simply doesn't walk anybody, and he never walks himself into problems. His control has been outstanding, and I expect another outstanding job by DeSclafani tonight.
Salute to Anthony DeSclafani, and salute to the Reds, who have won 6 straight series. Can they keep it rolling? We'll find out next on Fox Sports Ohio.
host of CincinnatiUSA.com and by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. PNC Park here in Pittsburgh. First of 3 here against the Pirates, and the Reds come in on a roll. The Pirates on the other side reeling a bit with a series victory this weekend. It would not only be 7 consecutive series victories for Cincinnati, but if you check out our Alkanook storylines, the Reds can tie a modern National League record. Cardinals, Reds, and Mets. This Reds team can tie those great teams of the past with their 7th consecutive series victory. That is most consecutive series won following the All-Star break. So it's been going good for Brian Price's club, but it starts tonight as we go back upstairs to the guys that'll call it, George Graham and Chris Welch.
Thank you, JD. We're ready to play some baseball. Just a picture-perfect night, warm temperatures, and a festive atmosphere in around downtown Pittsburgh this weekend. Let's check the starting lineup for Brian Price and the Reds, who come in 4-4 against the Buccos this year. Billy Hamilton will lead it off. He's been on a hot streak. Good to see this guy back in the lineup. Zach Cozart, after missing the 3 games of the Redbird series with that jammed finger, he's back in the lineup tonight. Joey Votto, who had his 17-game hitting streak snapped, back in the lineup, but boy, what a post-All-Star run he's been on. Adam Duvall will hit in the cleanup spot. Brandon Phillips, fresh off a 3-for-4 ball game, will hit behind him. Scott Schebler, who's shown that he's ready to play in prime time since coming back from AAA, behind him. Suarez, Barnhart, and DeSclafani. That's 1 through 9. And you know, the Reds have talked a lot about their young pitching, but Chris, Jameson Taillon is really one of the bright young prospects, not just of the Pirates, but of Major League Baseball.
Well, he's 24 years old, George, and he probably would have been in the major leagues long before this year had he been able to stay healthy. But he was sidelined a couple of times, once by Tommy John surgery in 2014, then last year after having surgery for a sports hernia. But his time now has come. He's thrown the ball very well. 8 starts overall, 2-2 record, very respectable 3.5 earned run average, a hard thrower with all the good pitches, fastball, curveball, and changeup.
So he's ready to go to work facing Hamilton. Billy's in at 252, 3 homers, 15 knocked in. David Freese in tied at third, 2 steps in on the grass, and this one slapped foul to the left side. 84 degrees game time temperature. Hot sunny day in downtown Pittsburgh today, and they expect more of the same over the course of the weekend. Billy shows bunt, takes a strike. That's your home plate umpire in the crew chief, Fielding Culbreth. Toby Bassner's at first, Manny Gonzalez your umpire at second, and the veteran Jim Reynolds your third base umpire. So ahead 0-2. That'll mean Freese will drop back at third, and Jaso drops back at first. That delivery's up high to Francisco Cervelli, the catcher. Cervelli back in the lineup too. Cervelli got plunked on the head. They had concussion-like symptoms. He took the protocol, and he's back in the lineup tonight after the road trip to Milwaukee and Atlanta. The road trip was not a kind one for the Buccos. They won 1 of 3 in Milwaukee and lost all 3 in Atlanta. So for Clint Hurdle and his ball club, they are now 53-53, back at 500 for the first time in 2 months, and they're 12.5 games back. 2 balls, 2 strikes. That's bounced over the pitcher's mound, backhanded, quick flip in the dirt, but picked by Jaso. Nice play by Cincinnati native Josh Harrison, and they get the speedy Hamilton by a step. Here's your 4 defensive alignment for the Buccos. Starling Marte is back as usual in left after playing center the last 3 games with McCutchen out of the lineup. Andrews back in center. Joyce is up and playing well. He's moved from left to right tonight. Freese, Mercer, Harrison, Jaso across the infield, and Cervelli behind the plate. The Buccos are 4th in the league defensively with 58 errors on the season. They'll turn some double plays. They're one of the league leaders in that respect, 112, but this is a pitching staff that relies a lot on ground ball outs. Jammed is Cozart, but this one blooped into left. That'll drop for a hit, and Zach will stretch his hitting streak to 13. Didn't waste any time, did he, Chris?
Well, you know, you have to have some of these bloops fall in for you to continue a streak like he's going, because, you know, every hitter will tell you you're going to hit into your fair share of line drive double plays or line drive outs that go right at him. This one falls into no man's land, so the Reds get a man on base, and we'll find out about Taillon, who's moved to first base, and how he handles tough lefties like Joey Votto.
Well, Votto's in at 289. You know his post All-Star story. He's hit over 400, 4 homers, 12 knocked in. That's gotten his average climbing up to near 300 again. He's in at 289, 18 homers and 54 knocked in. Short lead for Cozart from the stretch is Taillon. That's down and away. Big 6'5", 240-pound native of Woodlands, Texas. They've worked hard at AAA the last couple of years on his motion to first and on making that mechanics to the plate a little tighter with runners on base. That misses wide, and it's 2-0. Hardy on that fastball, and he's got some giddy up on it. Pretty good companies in there, Chris.
Well, when you come up out of the minor leagues, one thing that they normally think is that you're going to be wild. You have a good arm. That's why you rise to the top. But oftentimes it does not come with command. Not so the case with Jameson Taillon. That has been his calling card. And I think part of the reason because of that is that he keeps his pitching repertoire really simple. I mean, he does throw 2 types of fastballs, a 4-seamer and a 2-seamer, each average about 95 miles an hour. But the other pitches are only a curveball and a changeup. He's not messing around with cutters and sliders and splitters and all sorts of things. He keeps it nice and simple.
And in that stretch, those 4 games without a walk, that's now 24 innings pitched. So that's a whole bundle of innings pitched without giving up a free pass. Two balls, 2 strikes to Joey. Long pause on the mound, runner not going. This one blooped into left. That's going to drop for a hit too, and the Reds will have 1 out and first and second. So Votto starts a new hit streak after having his 17-game streak snapped.
You know, to just about every other left-handed hitter out there, that is an excellent pitch and would probably result in an out, but not with the way that Joey Votto's seeing it right now. He knows that he's down in 2 strikes. He's not going to sit back and try to knock the wall down. He's going to get his base hit. He knows where the outfielders are playing, and he makes swings like that in batting practice. So this isn't like it was an accident that he blooped it into left. Cozart maybe, Votto no.
Number 1 in on-base percentage in the league, number 2 in average. Fastball in on Duvall, fouled off. Adams in at 248, now with 26 homers and 71 knocked in.
That in on Duvall spot is a place where Taillon will pitch lefties and righties. He comes right over from the third base side of the rubber. In fact, he's moved a little bit from earlier in his minor league career, but he likes to pitch inside on that third base side of home plate.
Ripped, and it's a foul ball down the third base line.
You know, the beautiful spot about being able to pitch inside like that to hitters is that rarely do they get the barrel of the bat on the ball. When they do, it's pulled foul.
Yeah, when you came up, Chris, it would not be odd for pitchers to pitch them all over the rubber. But today they either plant themselves a right-hander on the third base side to get in on right-handed hitters, or to the left side. Very seldom do they move a lot. 0-2. Breaking ball down in the dirt.
You know, I think you can say the same thing about hitters. It used to be that from one at bat to another, certainly from one game or series to another, hitters would be in different parts of the batter's box. If they went 0 for 2, they were trying something different. But now it seems like everybody gets their cleat hold in there, and they're not going to move no matter what.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Duvall trying to get a run in. .95 fouled off again. The count holds at 1-2.
It was early in the year that the Reds minor leaguers got their shot at looking at Jameson Taillon. It was back in April when he and Cody Reed actually hooked up, I believe. with a matchup of a couple of each organization's 2 top prospects.
Taillon gave up only 1 hit in 6 innings against the Louisville club that day. Down to third, fouled again past Billy Hatcher, who's in the third base coach's box for the Reds. And as usual, Freddie Benavides down in the first base box for Cincinnati. A little bit of pep in the step of the Reds after winning 6 straight series. They came to town, took batting practice today. The Pirates did not. They had a rain delay in Atlanta last night. They didn't get in till about 3:30 this morning, so no BP. Fastball up and away, blows it past Duvall. There's 2 away, and that's strikeout number 1.
You know, sometimes it's not how many strikeouts you have, it's when you get them. And he needed an out right there. He just went right up the ladder, and Duvall could not hold off.
Here's Brandon at 268, fresh off a 3-for-4 performance. Now 6 homers, 40 knocked in. In his career, always hit well against Pittsburgh, and he's come up with some brilliant defensive plays against the Buccos too. For his career, 301, 23 homers, 96 knocked in. That's a pretty good year right there. Votto's got his eyes on Cozart. I mean, there's some communication going between the two. Votto thinks Cozart can take third, and Votto's ready to take second. I mean, they're ready to go. If Cozart decides to go, Votto's right with him.
Well, if the Pirates are smart, and a lot of times teams will do this, they'll let the guy from second to get the third, but they'll always throw down to second base to get the back runner. And with 2 outs, it wouldn't be a wise thing to do right now.
Jaso way behind Votto at first.
Although Votto's got a huge lead down there if he did decide to go. The good news about getting a big lead like that is if Brandon Phillips can hit a double, you can score from first.
No balls, 2 strikes. Brandon trying to deliver for the Reds early. That's up high, 1-2. These two teams have split the 8 games between them this year. Near the end of April, the beginning of July, the Reds lost the first 2, then took the final game of the series. Clint Hurdle's club at that time looked like they'd be bona fide contenders again. Things have changed a lot at that time. That's a bouncer through. That's going to get a run in from third. Here comes Cozart. There'll be no throw, and Brandon Phillips continues his hot streak, picking up run batted in number 41. The Reds take an early lead, 1-0.
Just goes to show you don't have to hit them hard off the wall to be able to make them damaging. 3 hits in this inning by the Reds, 2 bloops and a ground ball that probably bounced 16 times before it went into the outfield. But add it all up, Reds put a run on the board the first inning.
Put 2 out, 2 on, and here comes Schebler. He's in at 227, couple of homers and 11 knocked in. The player of the month of July when he left Louisville. Didn't miss a beat coming up here with a walk-off home run that gave the Reds a win in his first game back. And Chris, just looking at him when he left, uncomfortable, really not able to get into a groove, but he's in a groove now.
And I really believe that the playing time he got at AAA is the main reason.
Wide of third and out of play, 1 ball, 1 strike. And give the Reds credit. Give Don Long and Brian Price credit. I mean, they looked at him and they said he just needs some time off. They understand the ability, the potential that he has. Originally, he was going to split time and left with Adam Duvall. Duvall took off, and they said, let's just give him a chance to recollect himself. And boy, he did down there. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, he became the International League Player of the Month in the month of July. I mean, you've got to really shine to do that. The interesting thing, though, when he wasn't even really platooning that much early in the year. When he didn't get off to a very good start, he was being used late in the game as a pinch hitter, did not perform well, didn't play great outfield. So he thought that he wasn't anywhere close to showing him what he could really do. He told me before the game today that one of the problems he had was when he got inserted in the game late,
he had a hard time catching up to the speed of the game that had already evolved to a certain level. And it's very difficult for young players to do that. That's why most managers like veterans on their bench.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 on for the Reds with 2 outs. That's a liner, but caught by the second baseman Harrison. The Reds will stay in 2, but an RBI from Phillips gives Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. DeSclafani to the mound. Next to Jim Day's boat that he took from Cincinnati here to Pittsburgh. George Grant, Chris Welsh, and our crew ready to bring you Reds baseball as we go to the bottom of 1. Let's check the starting lineup for Clint Hurdle in his year with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He'll send Josh Harrison into the leadoff spot. Starling Marte will bat second. McCutchen in the number 3 spot after 3 days off. Joyce, Freese, Jaso, Cervelli, Mercer, and Tyone. That's your Pittsburgh starting lineup, and here's Anthony DeSclafani.
Now DeSclafani is on some kind of a roll. 6-0, terrific earned run average. But look at the walks. 52 walks, 13 strikeouts. That is just domination type numbers right there. The kind of number that'll make any pitching coach very happy. And you can really see that the pitching staff began to really turn around when DeSclafani was activated. I mean, along the same time, I mean, obviously Homer Bailey's come up much later, but he's only had 1 start. But, you know, you add these 2 guys to the rotation, you put Iglesias in the bullpen, and the pitching problems that the Reds had early in the year have really evaporated.
Hard hit down to second, but Phillips has it, and Josh Harrison's retired, 1 away. Here's your 4 defensive alignment for the Reds. Cincinnati comes in 12th in the league with 73 errors on the season. That's 15 more than the Pirates. For the Reds, Duvall, Hamilton, and Schebler in the outfield. Suarez, Cozart, Phillips, and Votto across the infield. Phillips and Votto are now 1,064 games played with each other on that right side of the infield, and Tucker Barnhart behind the plate. And Chris, we talked about it in the open. It's a different look than Eugenio Suarez of late. He's buckled down at the plate, and he's buckled up with his glove. Came up with a couple of brilliant plays against the Cardinals in the last 3-game series. There's Marte at 320, 7 homers and 37 knocked in. The league leaders with that 320 average. Hit hard down to third. Ole. That's probably the hardest hit ball of the ball game so far. Reds got 3 hits. Marte gets nothing out of that.
You got to hit them where they ain't, and that's a nice play though, and right on cue really, as you were talking about his defense, George. You know, people I don't think really appreciate, I can't even appreciate, having pitched in the major leagues but never played third base or shortstop, how different it is. The cadence of the ball coming at you is different. The spin of the ball coming off the bat is different. And he's had his share of errors. They came in streaks earlier in the year. A lot of people were very much down on Suarez for that, but you have to remember that Suarez is still a young man. He's in his early 20s and getting better and better by the day.
Here's Andrew McCutchen, got 3 games off in Atlanta. Both a physical, mental, and emotional break for him, said his manager Clint Hurdle. They're trying to get him back on track again. A silver bat winner, gold glove caliber, MVP potential every year, but you see the numbers at 241 with 15 homers and 43 knocked in.
I mean, he had a streak of 5 straight All-Star games until it was broken this year.
Wide to third. Suarez has it. And the throw is high. We talked about the early problems of Eugenio Suarez, and more often they're because of this, not the catching, but the throwing.
Well, you know, you set your feet. You want to make sure you release the ball with some authority and just not flip it up there. Looked like he did that. He just threw it high.
The job by Votto to get a glove on it, or that might have wound up putting McCutchen on second. So here's Matt Joyce at 282. 11 homers and 37 knocked in.
You're thinking about stolen bases for McCutchen. Don't waste your time. He has not done much of that at all last couple of years, especially this year. He's stolen 3. He's been thrown out 5 times.
At one point, you really penciled him in as a 20 stolen base guy a year. I mean, the last 2 years he's been bothered by nagging injuries. No indication of the injuries this year. He's just not running. Strike 1 to Joyce. Waves at that, and it's 0-2. This is Joyce's 4th straight start. He started 3 games and left when McCutchen had the series off. And he's had 4 runs knocked in over the last 3 ball games. Good job by Barnhart to keep it in front, and McCutchen stays at first. Can't do it much better than that, Chris.
Well, he's like a textbook on how to block pitches, how to operate behind the plate.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
And if he didn't do it like that, Barnhart that is, he wouldn't be in the major leagues. I mean, he's not a guy that is blessed with an incredible amount of athletic ability. Not going to not hit his way onto a major league roster. You got to do the little things. He earned it coming on his way up. He was a Gold Glove winner as a catcher in all of Major League Baseball a few years ago.
There goes the runner fouled off, and he had the base stolen.
I should say minor league baseball, when he was voted to be the best defensive minor league catcher of all of them out there.
The other side of that is, if you're a manager and a pitching coach, you want a catcher that's going to run your pitching staff and run your program, and he does a great job of doing that.
I can see why the Pirates may want to steal right here, because they put the shift. The Reds put the shift on. You've got Cozart over there near second base, but if you get him running to the bag, you open up a lot of the infield up the middle, and I think that's what they were hoping that Matt Joyce would be able to do if he gets a pitch out over the plate, stroke it through the box, and find a lot of green space in the Reds infield.
Till Joyce got the chance to start some ball games, he was their #1 pinch hitter off the bench. 13 pinch hits. Yeah, misses inside, and we'll go full 3-2. So with 2 away, McCutchen will be off and running from first. DeSclafani wanted it. So did Barnhart. 3-2. Runner going. For the Reds, this is the first stop of a 3-city road trip for Clint Hurdle. They're finally home after their 2-city road trip where they were 1-5 on the trip. Nick Leyva, veteran manager and coach, coaching in the first base coach's lines. There goes the runner. Did he go? That's a call, strike 3. And the error, no harm here in the first. So 4 come to the plate. Reds lead at 1-0. Suarez due up when we return. Premium. Watch every out of market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices, including free subscription to @Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. And if you're a baseball fan, you need it. Here's Eugenio Suarez to lead it off as we go to the top of 2. Barnhart and DeSclafani to follow. Great to have you with us. George Grant, Chris Welch, Jim Day. Jesse Jackson made the trip from Cincinnati. Didn't get a ticket either on the way. Not bad, Chris.
That's always a good thing.
And down in the truck, Josh Hall, our producer. Uncle Roy Alfers, our director for the festivities here in Pittsburgh this weekend. Matt Sigafus dialing up some highlights, and Lauren White with some graphic support as well. And Chris, every time I come to Pittsburgh, I always remember a guy who we recently lost. That's Lou Rinoni. Great producer, director. Was in Cincinnati for so many years. In fact, he's the guy that originally hired Jesse, a friend of ours for so many years. His son Dean also worked with us for many years. One of the best in the business, and I first met him here at the old ballpark. What a personality, what a professional. He mentored so many young people, and our thoughts to Dean and the whole family. Backhanded, long flip to first. What a play by Harrison. Josh Harrison. Somehow every time the Reds play the Cincinnati product, he finds a way to burn his former hometown team, either with the bat or the glove. You're not going to get a better play than this one, Chris.
Boy, oh boy, I didn't think that he had a chance of coming to get that. They like it in the Pirate dugout. He's got to go a long way. Harrison, he's already playing up near the bag, but by the time he gets it and has to throw, he's in shallow left center field.
I mean, what do? Just turn around and heave it in the direction of first base and hope?
Why not? That's sliced down the left field line into the corner by Barnhart. Grounding first, going to second. Marte won't have a play, and he's got one of the best arms in the league and left. So it'll be a double. So now, if that play's not made, the Reds have maybe a run in, but at the very least, second and third, nobody out.
Well, the Pirates made room for Josh Harrison. They signed him to a multi-year deal. They had Neil Walker at second base, and they made a move for Jonathan Neese from New York in exchange for Neil Walker. Walker's had a good time in New York. Now the Pirates have just recently traded Neese back to New York, the Mets that is. And that gave Harrison a chance to play second base on a full-time basis.
In return, they got Antonio Bastardo, the left-handed reliever. That pitch down in the strike zone, clips the bottom of the zone. And now that's one side of the story, but when you lose Neil Walker, who was a leader in this clubhouse, and you lose this year Mark Melancon, was a leader in the clubhouse, it takes away some of the fiber of the clubhouse. I mean, they probably would not sign Melancon. He'd get over $16 million next year as a free agent. But when you lose people like that, it chips away at what you have in your clubhouse.
Well, and the players don't always understand the business end of it. They see their closer leaving. He's a very dependable closer, and they're thinking, well, why did you need to make this move? At the time, they were only 2 games back in the wild card. Right now, the Pirates are 3 games back in the wild card, certainly within striking distance.
DeSclafani strikes out on 3 pitches. Second strikeout. Talk about the deals that the Pirates made. Melancon traded to Washington for Rivero. Rivero is on this lineup. He throws 100, so he may be the closer of the future. Francisco Liriano traded,
along with some prospects, to the Toronto Blue Jays, and really that was a salary dump by the Pittsburgh Pirates. They needed to get out from underneath Liriano's contract, and they needed to send along a couple of young good players in order to get a decent possible starting pitcher in Hutchison in return.
The 2 away, and here's Billy with the runner still sitting on second.
Neil Huntington, who's the general manager here, you know, they're not afraid to trade closers at the deadline. They've done that several times over the last decade. They're always trying to, I guess, not rebuild here, but maybe refit from year to year, knowing that they're in a small market like the Reds. But they don't want to alienate their fan base by completely wiping the slate clean and starting from scratch. They had 20 years of losing. They can't go back to that again. But there are people here scratching their heads about certain deals that they've made because they are within striking distance of the wild card.
Including some players in that clubhouse. 2 balls, no strikes to Billy Hamilton, who bounced out first time up. Hit hard but foul down the first base line. The Pirates, in fact, have had 2 meetings in the last week, and that's 1 more than they have wins in the last week. They had one right after the trades were made to kind of tell everybody what the plan was. And then after the 1-5 road trip, Clint Hurdle had another powwow today. 2 balls, 1 strike. Billy digging in. And Chris, it reinforces what we've talked about so long. I mean, the Reds have had to do some uncomfortable things too. But when you're in the market size that the Pirates are in and the Reds are in, the financial side of the game is, I mean, Bob Hausum said it when he retired. You know, the only way you can survive in Cincinnati is keep the pipeline coming and then know that you're going to lose some free agents when it's all over. But you have to keep the pipeline coming. A walk to Billy. So Hamilton is on. First and second. 2 away, and here comes Cozart. So make the count 25 2/3 innings for Taillon before that walk. After 4 straight starts in 25 2/3 innings. Down to third. Freeze will get the out at second. So the Reds will strand a pair. They've stranded 4 through 2 and lead at 1-0. encouraging numbers. You know, we talk about it so often. Its game revolves around pitching. And Chris, 3 shutouts since the All-Star break against Milwaukee, at San Diego, and then against the Cardinals. Only 1 in the first half of this season. So they went from the fewest in Major League Baseball to tied for the most.
Pretty impressive, really. And the team has come a long way. Obviously, they're playing a lot better now. They've won 6 series since the All-Star break, all the series that they've played. In fact, if you go back to the series that they beat the Cubs prior to being swept in Miami, the series right before the break, they have won 7 out of 8 of their last series. So this ball club, you know, if you're a contending team, not a good time to be playing the Reds. Back in April and May was ideal. Not so much anymore.
Here's David Freese at 278, 11 homers, 43 knocked in. We talk about what has gone wrong for the Pirates. One of the things that's gone right, give them credit, Chris, they brought this guy back who had a tremendous career in St. Louis, went to the American League, injured, struggled, but he's had a very solid year, both at third and first and at the plate.
He's a solid player, one of those guys that kind of fits the one of the last pieces that you need to have to fill your ball club out. But by no means is this a real young ball club. They've got some young prospects.
Left center field, Hamilton there, 1 away.
But for the most part, it's a 30-something team. David Freese is 33. The guy coming to the plate now, John Jaso, is 32. Cervelli's 30 years old. McCutchen will be 30 in October. So they're a team that has some miles on it. And they will need to very shortly dip into their minor leagues to see whether those prospects are actually big league players.
There's John Jaso. Jaso had a hot start to the season. Since then has gone south at 253, only 4 homers, 26 knocked in. They had hoped that he would supply power. You heard the boos when he stepped to the plate. I mean, part of that is relative to the numbers, but also he was a lightning rod on this road trip, not only because he didn't hit, but then yesterday against Atlanta, he swung, he got sawed off on a ball, couldn't find the ball, never left the batter's box, and got doubled up here in a game that the Pirates could have won.
I mean, it could have been a double play anyway, even if you do run. It's very much unlike Jaso not to run, so he must really not have known anywhere where that ball was. But of course, when you're waiting around, they had a long rain delay to begin that ball game. It was at the end of a road trip in which the Pirates won 1 and lost 5. And they looked like they were ready to get on the plane to come home. They only got 5 hits. They were beaten, what, 5-2 by the Braves yesterday?
In fact, they've had 5 hits or fewer in the last 4 ball games. That's the way the offense has gone for this Bucco team. No balls, 2 strikes. Two to the Pirate first baseman. This is the second of 3 trips that the Reds will make to Pittsburgh. The final trip here will come a 4-game series, the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th of September. Then the Pirates will return to Cincinnati for a weekend series on the 16th, 17th, 18th of September. Slice down to short, tricky hop across, and they'll get Jaso by a step. 2 away. So 2 away, and here comes Cervelli. Cervelli took over as a leader on his ball club last year. This year he's been sidetracked by injuries, and the most recent, of course, coming this past week when he was hit in the head. Missed a couple of days, but was back in the lineup here tonight. Here's a look, Chris. Boom.
Boy, is that scary. I had not seen that video.
And that's not a glancing blow. That was solid.
You know, the concussion syndromes aside, I mean, if he passes all the tests, they go through the protocol. Major League Baseball is really taking that seriously. But just from a hitting standpoint, can you imagine trying to get back in the batter's box? I mean, that ball nearly got him between the eyes. It wasn't like it was a glancing blow off the top of the helmet. I mean, he turned right into that pitch, and it got him right on the P. I mean, it really takes something to get right back in that batter's box and face a pitcher that's throwing in the 90s and have confidence that he's not going to have one get away from him and hit you again.
He's been hit a series of times this year. He was on the DL from the first week of June till the middle of July after having surgery to repair the hamate bone in his left hand. Ryan Vogelsong came back last night. What an emotional moment for him. He had facial reconstruction surgery after being hit square in the face
with a pitch ball.
Yeah, unbelievable. They didn't think he'd be back at all this year. I mean, the Pirates lost last night, but for that guy right there, Chris, we've seen him over the years. What a gutty effort, and it's great to see him back.
Well, they thought it may be his last time ever because he is 39 years old, and I was glad to see him back.
1-2-3 for DeSclafani. Here we go to the third. Votto leads it off 1-0 Reds. Up with Girls on the Run and their dedication to empowering young girls and instilling confidence through running. Registration now open. Learn more about how you can get involved this fall and visit foxsportsupports.com. The Reds had 3 hits in the first. Single by Cozart, single by Votto, and a single by Phillips gave Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. A double by Barnhart and a walk to Hamilton in the second, but nothing to show for it. So here we go to the third. Votto up for his second at bat. Joey in his career a .324 hitter coming into today against the Pirates. And he's on his way to 300 again this year. What a difference a couple of months makes. At the end of April, it looked like 300 was a fleeting memory, but he's back on the beam, aggressive at the plate, and putting fear in the minds of opposing managers, pitching coaches, and pitchers. Tied him up on that one. That's the one pitch we haven't seen a lot of these first 3 innings, Chris. He's got a changeup that's a work in progress, but when he gets that down, he's going to be nasty.
Well, I mean, you have to have 3 pitches. You've got to have a breaking ball that'll go away from a right-handed pitcher, and you need some kind of an off-speed pitch that goes away from a lefty, and that's where that changeup comes in.
Dribble to the right side. One away as Harrison takes care of it, and that'll bring up Adam Duvall. Duvall struck out first time up. They'll overshift to the left side with Harrison now to the shortstop side of the second base bag. Up high in the air to short right center field. Who's going to take charge? McCutchen will, and there's your second out. Just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to look forward to Miller Time later in tonight's game. Brought to you by Miller Lite. Reds will play the weekend series here and then head to St. Louis. So 6 games against the Cardinals in 9 days, and then on to Milwaukee next weekend for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, before they return home to take on the Miami Marlins for 4, and then the Dodgers come to town. A 4-game set over the weekend. And the Texas Rangers will wrap it up on the 23rd and 24th of August. Ball and a strike to Phillips.
Looks like Tyone is having a running conversation with himself, which is totally okay.
And he's not even a left-hander.
As long as you don't answer, you're fine. Ask yourself a question.
Off his leg. Knocked down by Harrison, and another fine play by the Pirates second baseman. Tyone points to Harrison, an acknowledgement for the Reds. Go quietly 1-2-3 in a 9-pitch inning.
Well, congratulations to rookie Davis, promoted to AAA Louisville today. He was one of the players acquired in the Aroldis Chapman trade with the Yankees, rewarded for his 2.72 ERA. And the Reds announced the signing of minor league free agent outfielder TJ Friedl. Very interesting story as to how he was available. And George Grant, I know your connection with USA Baseball. There are a ton of people that are really high on this young kid. A terrific move by the Reds.
You're right, JD. You know, he's part of our team that went on their summer tour and just finished in Cuba, beat Cuba down there. And I mean, all of our people raved. I mean, he had the kind of an impression on his teammates and the coaching staff that you very rarely see from a college player. There's a swing and a bouncing ball by Jordy Mercer fouled on the third base line. And Chris, I get the part of the story was he went to college and they didn't know he was eligible for the draft. No one drafted him. The Reds followed him, and I mean, our people raved about his presence when the Reds when the USA baseball team won a gold medal and Doug Minkiewicz was the leader of that club. Many of our people said he reminds them of Doug Minkiewicz, that he led his teammates and led the team during that whole summer tour. So not only a pretty good athlete, but a pretty impressive young man.
Well, he's going to have a chance of playing professional baseball. So what more can you ask for?
And great news this past week that baseball is back in the Olympics. Baseball and softball back in the Olympics.
2020 is it?
2020 in Tokyo, and that's a tip of the cap to the people in Tokyo who wanted it back. Here's Tyone, the pitcher, but also to the new leadership of the International Olympic Committee, which is more inclined to lean to baseball. That's the good news for the United States and baseball fans. The difficulty is, I mean, it's not an automatic bid or a done deal. There'll be 6 different representatives that will head to the Olympics in Tokyo, and they will come from 6 different regions. The host country, will have 18, and then there'll be a team from the Pacific Rim, a team made up of European countries, another team from Australia and the Netherlands. In that area, there's a call strike 3. That's strikeout number 3 for DeSclafani, and then a team from the Americas. So the United States will be lumped in a group with Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, so on and so forth. Some pretty good baseball playing countries. So it's not an automatic bid to get to the Olympics, but at least baseball's back in the Olympics.
So what pool of players will they be drawing on to fill out their teams?
Still to be completely determined, but in all probability it'll be 40-man roster players and minor league players, maybe some major league players who have retired too, but not the major league players that'll be on your major league roster in all probability. But there's some pretty darn good players that you can make a team of that can be very competitive, which was similar to the last time we were in the Olympics. I mean, baseball's not going to stop its season the way hockey does. There's a liner in the left. It'll drop in front of the left fielder Duval, and Harrison has a base hit. So Josh is doing it with the bat and doing it with the glove again tonight. 1 for 2 is Josh Harrison. Here comes Marte, bounced to third, hit a bullet that Suarez gloved. Josh has 14 stolen bases. He's been caught only once, and in his mindset, the way the Pirates are going, he kind of takes it on his own to try to get the team going. So don't be surprised to see him off and running. Not going. Pitch on the inside corner for a strike. Exchange between those two out on the mound, huh? 4 balls, 1 strike to Marte. Runner not going, jammed him, fouled off. 0-2. They're keeping it on him.
You know, DeSclafani, his control has been so good, and sometimes you measure that by the number of walks you give up per innings and so on. He went 3 games in a row without giving up a walk. but his ability to pitch to both sides of the plate really separates him out. A lot of pitchers feel comfortable on one side or another. DeSclafani, when he wants to come in like he does here to Marte, he gets in there.
Down the right field line, curving, it'll be foul into the seats.
And normally that spot for a right-handed pitcher is the easiest one of ball to throw in there. Ball naturally runs into right-hander, so you can pretty much cut it loose towards the center of the plate and have the natural run take over. But he pitches just as effectively over on that third or that first base side of home plate.
0-2. Harrison diving back in and safe. If you're going to pick a guy that's going to have his uni dirty before anybody else in a ball game, it'll be Josh Harrison. Yeah. Either with the glove or
What's
on the
better
bases.
when it's dirty?
You're not kidding. I mean, the last thing in the world you want is a clean uni at the end of a night. Ah, they got him. And Votto will tag him out. And just to be sure, they get him again. So caught stealing. He's been caught for the second time. Good job by DeSclafani. Reds still lead 1-0. On the home run derby champ Giancarlo Stanton and the Marlins on August the 15th through the 18th, presented by Swedish Fish. Catch all the action for only $12. For tickets, call 513-300-REDS or visit reds.com. Here's Schebler. Now the Reds fans had a wonderful experience last year with the home run derby in Cincinnati and Todd Frazier winning it. But the balls that Giancarlo Stanton hit in San Diego, Chris, were, I mean, that was out of this world. I mean, you're talking about cannon shots. It was amazing.
It was almost like superhuman.
Yeah.
He looks like a, an action hero figure.
0-2, swing and a miss. Schebler's retired. That's strikeout number 3 for Taillon. First out here of the 4th inning.
He's really beginning to feel good out there. You can tell because he's moving the ball around a little bit. Schebler's a good high ball hitter, so what do? You give him a high pitch, but just a little bit higher than he can handle. Chances are he's going to swing at it, and if you get it in the right spot, he'll swing through it.
Schebler 0 for 2. He lined to second first time up. They'll play Suarez pretty much straight away. He bounced to second first time up. He hit one behind the second base bag that Harrison made a remarkable diving stop of and then tossed him out at first. And the look on the face of Eugenio Suarez was really one of almost disbelief. I think he thought when the ball got past second, nobody was going to make a play. And He was out by about 8 or 10 feet. 2-0.
You know, you mentioned Taillon was drafted after growing up in Houston, Texas, actually the Woodlands. He was born in Lakeland, Florida. Both of his parents are Canadian, so he has dual citizenship. And he was all set to go to Rice University before the Pittsburgh Pirates drafted him in the first round, second player overall in 2010. And they dropped $6.5 million on him. He said, I'll get my education later.
I remember sitting with Pete Rose when Petey was in high school, and he said, you know, he wants to play ball, and we're going to have him play ball. I mean, no doubt about that. But what happens if he gets a scholarship? So, well, if he makes a lot of money, I'll buy him a college. That was Pete, right? Bounce foul. I tell you, there's one guy, Chris, for everything that we've watched him develop and grow into, that even when he played, I thought one guy, I mean, you know about Senior, but Petey, in my mind, had the makings of a major league manager. He had that kind of presence and that kind of history of the game and study of the game. Off the glove of the pitcher, Suarez will be nailed by a step, 2 away. Taillon had 2 balls right back at him today. One he knocks down, the other zipped by his head.
You know, the good thing about this one, here's what happened earlier to Ryan Vogelsong. And I mean earlier this year when it came right back and that ball hit him in the face.
That was Taillon.
Well, that was Taillon that got hit right there.
Yep. That was Vogelsong was even more.
Well, he's been hit, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not sure when that was taken, but that was July 9th. He's been hit twice tonight. The guy's got a bullseye on him. You know, after a while you get, though, pitchers have this sense, and I always had the feeling on certain pitches to certain batters that were going to be coming back my way. And as soon as it came out of your hand, you just kind of knew it. Most of the time, the pitches that are down and away, guys that take them the other way, but they may catch a little bit more of the plate and then take it right back up the middle.
1-2 to Barnhart, double first time up. Down to first, Chase Hill has it. Another quick inning. Barnhart, double first time up, bounces out. 1, 2, 3 go the Reds. They lead 1-0. There's a little similarity between these two pitchers, Anthony DeSclafani and
Jameson Taillon, and I mean really from their pitching deliveries, they are both described as long arm pitchers. You watch their arm swing as they both come down here. They really reach straight down. Taillon not much as down as DeSclafani does. And DeSclafani from exactly behind home plate hides that ball very well. Taillon, by contrast, shows that ball to the hitter a little bit. So when he drops his arm out of his glove, he gives the hitter a little bit of a timing mechanism. Hasn't affected the Reds or their ability to read that yet. That's one thing that scouts have picked up about Taillon, wondering if he may have to make an adjustment sometime down the road. DeSclafani, the only adjustment he needs to make is get his guys to get him a few more runs.
Here's Marte, who was at the plate when Harrison was thrown out trying to steal. He bounced out first time up. Over the years, the Reds have pitched Marte pretty well. But like Josh Harrison, time and time again, he's come up with big plays against the Reds, come up with big hits, and at least 5 times outstanding defensive plays that snuffed out Reds rallies, and in a couple of instances ended ball games with brilliant catches or throws. He's the complete package. Playing left with McCutchen in center, but maybe one of the best center fielders in all the game. This time Tardy on that. That's a strikeout, and that's strikeout number 4 for DeSclafani. 1 away. Here's McCutchen, reached on the error by Suarez. Well, DeSclafani's missed tonight. He hasn't missed by much. That pitch a good example of it. And it's 2-0.
George, time to send out some congratulations to the Hamilton Joes, who nailed down the championship in this last summer's 2016's Great Lakes Summer Collegiate League. They beat the Lima Locos a few nights ago in a very tight 2-1 ball game, and they are 4-0. They were the Hamilton Joes in elimination games. They had a great year this year. Lima Locos had the best record in all the Great Lakes Summer Collegiate League, and so congratulations to all those concerned and involved with the Hamilton Joes, including their manager as Adam Grissom, and of course Kim Nuxall, because there's a reason that they're called the Hamilton Joes.
What a great league, huh?
It's really a fun league.
Fouled at the plate. Mac had a good summer too.
Yeah, they all had a good time, a good summer. It's well played. It's well umpired. The venues are nice. Some places are very well attended. I think in Lima they averaged over 3,000 per game. A lot of other ball clubs had a lot of big attendance as well. So gives young men a chance to play some baseball before they go back to college. And like Andrew McCutchen needs anything else to go wrong right now. He's already mired in the worst slump of his career. He gets banged right off the foot with a foul ball.
Right off the instep of that left foot. Top of the ankle. Oof. Still supported by these fans here, and you know, Chris, over the last couple of years when he's been beset by injuries and just being around him, you knew he was hurt. You've never heard him complain or give injuries as an excuse. Even though he's slumped at times, he's always stood up like a man and When he's failed, he's failed.
Well, you know, there was a lot of talk last year about the Pirates perhaps giving Andrew McCutchen an extension. He is signed through 2017. The team has an option on him for 2018 for just about the money they have him on for next year, which is in the neighborhood of 14 to 15 million, which for McCutchen in a typical McCutchen year is a good team value. But there's no talk about that, and why the ball club didn't go ahead and spend a lot of money on him right now is he's mired in that bad slump.
Those are two guys that have a lot of respect for each other, and two guys that have been targets of the opposing teams a lot over the last 4 years. You know the story of the Reds and the Buccos. The Reds have hit 43 Pirates, and the Pirates have hit 41 Reds over the last 4+ seasons. And very often those are the two guys who end up paying the price.
I think probably McCutchen more than Joey Votto, mainly because the Pittsburgh pitchers hit more opposing players and there's more retribution.
1-ball delivery. That's a strike. Joey struck out in the first inning. Joyce, one of those guys who'll load up with his string. He just turned 32 this week. Native of Tampa, Florida. Went to high school in Florida and then Florida Southern. Always had big time power. Most of his career spent with Tampa Bay, where he's had as many as 18 homers a season. And this time he'll roll this one to short, turns it into a double play, and the Reds get out of the inning even with the walk. Cincinnati and DeSclafani still lead at 1-0.
Hit in his sleep. Well, that's basically what happened to Tony Renda. On Tuesday, he was awarded a sacrifice bunt. Early this morning, that was changed to a hit. He found out when he woke up in the hotel here in Pittsburgh. Now, he didn't get all the excitement after you get your first hit in an actual game, but he did get the ball. The Reds authenticated the ball as his first at bat. It'll now be changed to being authenticated to his first hit. And you saw the picture right there. He tweeted out thanking the Reds for the baseball, and the first hit saying that picture was of his father, Frank, who is deceased, and it was a younger Tony Renda at a Yankees game with his dad, and he said Pops is looking over the ball. So in the end, all is well.
Great story, huh, JD? And when you walked around the clubhouse today, it was funny because half the guys, as the story started to go around, nobody thought he had the ball. So it was kind of like, gee, it's too bad you didn't have the ball. And I mean, he one-upped every one of them with the story. It was pretty neat, huh? Great moment for the young man.
Really nice young man.
Hey, we heard from the Yankees minor league people that he's just a ball player. And we saw that in his first at bat. He got a bunt down. He hustled down the line. That's what you want.
Yeah, you're right. Well, the Yankees only had him for a period of several months. He came up in the Washington Nationals organization, and then last year, before the deadline or so, was traded to the Yankees, and then of course traded to the Reds as part of the Aroldis Chapman deal.
4 strikeouts for Tyone. First out here of the 5th inning. Here's the top of the order. Josh. Billy Hamilton up. He bounced out and walked in his 2 plate appearances. That's a strike. Billy peers down at 3rd. No balls and 2 strikes. Will Cozart do up next? And that's wide. By the way, congratulations, Chris, to the former Red, Jay Bruce.
Hit it a ton. I mean, he hit a home run last night, a 3-run home run. Bruce did way back in support of Bartolo Colon. And the Mets needed that home run as they won the ball game 4-1. So nice to see Jay getting off the schneid, as you like to say. He was 0 for 10 before that bomb.
So the Beaumont Bomber became the Bronx Bomber that game at Yankee Stadium.
I think that one's been used before. I'm not sure.
Some guy.
When?
What was his name?
Maybe it was used so long ago that they'll forget.
They named a candy bar after him. And it wasn't Reggie. That's a base hit to Billy. Let's see if he's off and running. Hamilton with 38 stolen bases. And his last 11 straight without being caught. Games like this, the stolen base becomes so critical. I mean, Joe Morgan always said it. It's not how many bases you steal, it's when you steal it. Late in games when they're tied, or in 1-run ball games when it means a whole lot more.
Well, Jaso at first base is kind of in an interesting situation, or fielding position, that is. He's a couple of feet off the bag at first. So that allows Billy Hamilton to get a little bit bigger lead than normal. I really haven't seen it quite like that. Jaso's a right-handed thrower. So I guess if they're going to throw over to first base, he's going to make the tag on the body of Hamilton, and Hamilton has to get his hand in there. That's the Pirates perhaps taking advantage of the review.
Not going. Pitch fouled off to the right side by Cozart.
It used to be that if you tag the guy, whether he's sliding back to the bag on a pickoff play or he's going in on a stolen base, what you hear everybody say, well, he tagged him on his body. He tagged him high. And so over the years, you know, people were taught to tag at the point of contact with the base. But the Pirates aren't even interested in doing that here with Hamilton at first base. But he's got a bigger lead. I mean, he's right there at the cutout.
And Chris, you remember when Jim Leland was the manager here, they had all kinds of different defensive formations, and the rules say that you can't throw to an unoccupied base, and very often the first baseman would be so far off the base, and a couple of times a balk was called because the throw would be 15 or 20 feet from the base. That's about as far away as you can get.
Well,
still on the base.
Well, you have to be able to make the play, and what they would say is that he can still swipe and be able to tag at Hamilton. So you can be halfway to second base as long as the runner is there next to you. But I'm not sure why they're willing to give him such a big lead. I mean, he's right there at the cutout. That was nearly a quick pitch right there.
Taillon got rid of the ball so quickly, I don't think that Zach Cozart was ready.
Cozart digs in. Cozart singled to stretch his hitting streak to 13 and then bounced into a fielder's choice. Billy not going, pitch out, and almost dropped by Cervelli. That's 1-2.
I just think that's a very innovative way of playing it at first base with a right-handed throwing first baseman. And Jaso off the bag. I mean, the Pirates have been very innovative. They're one of the first teams to really have embraced the shift.
Billy not going. Rip foul down the third base line. Not going. Fouled again. Hanging in there is Cozart. But Cozart still gets a piece to stay alive. Good at bat by Cozart. 1 ball, 2 strikes. This will be the 7th pitch of the at bat. Like the Roadrunner, he swipes at him. Where was he? Beep beep. Beep beep. A little bigger lead for Billy.
He's going. He was leaning the same way that the Reds had Josh Hamilton leaning the pitch before that he actually decided to go and got picked off.
He's going this time down the third, foul again. Billy's been much more efficient second half of this season. He's stolen his last 11 straight, 29 of the last 31. Overall, he's stolen 38 of 43. He and Marte in this game, 2 of the premier base stealers in the league. Not going. Down the left field line, and that's curving out of play. What an at bat against this hard throwing right-hander by Cozart. Last year, remember, Billy really had the stolen base crown in his back pocket, but when he went on the disabled list, missed the final month of the season, Dee Gordon surpassed him. This year he wants to stay healthy. Not going. Yes, missing inside. He had Cozart locked up, but just missed inside. Another look. And a good call. So a 10 pitch at bat. Cozart trying to deliver. See if Hamilton's off and running this time. 2 balls, 2 strikes to count even. He's going. And another foul ball.
You know, at some point you got to wonder who is this more straining on, the pitcher or Billy Hamilton at first base. I mean, there's still always a danger for Taillon to hang a pitch, make a mistake, and it end up, resulting in a home run or a double, and then, it's all come apart for him.
Billy not going, and fouled off one more time. He's thrown everything but the kitchen sink at him, and that's gotten his pitch count up to 85. Votto sitting on deck waiting. Cervelli will go out and talk to his big right-hander. Billy's going again, and there's an out. There's a throw to second, not in time. Cozart big swing and tumble to the ground. A great battle by Cozart. Hamilton finally winds up at second. Take another look.
Finally chased a fastball that was up and out of the zone, and Hamilton has been able to read Taillon's move so much. He beat everything.
Well, Billy's in scoring position. Here comes Joey. Votto, high fly ball to left. It's going to stay in the park. Marte under it with 2 away. He's got it. The Reds get a single from Hamilton, but strand him. They've stranded 5 through 5 and lead it 1-0. Now being brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children, changing the outcome together. Great to have you with us here in Pittsburgh. Reds a run, 5 hits and an error. The Pirates no runs, only 1 hit, the hit by Josh Harrison. For the Reds, their run came in the first, singles by Cozart and Votto, and then Brandon Phillips drove in the run. They've stranded 5 and had runners on base in 3 of the 5 innings, but unable to score other than that 1 marker. Here's David Freese, fly ball to center, first time up. Here's the 1-1. That's up and in for a ball. 2 balls, 1 strike. 2 fine young pitchers going at it tonight. Anthony DeSclafani coming in with that 6-0 record. Has struck out 4, walked 1, and given up 1 hit. And Jameson Taillon with a 2-2 record has struck out 5 and allowed only that 1 run. Hard-working, big, tall, young right-hander. Very impressive young man is Taillon. Tried to jam him, just missed inside, and there's walk number 2. Leadoff batter on here in the bottom of 5, David Freese, and that'll bring up John Jaso. This is game 1 of the 3-game series. Tomorrow, speaking of big, tall right-handers with an impressive resume, Homer Bailey will get his 2nd start for the Reds. Boy, was he great first time out against former Yankee Ivan Nova. That's foul down the first base line. You had to be impressed with what Homer did first time out, Chris.
It was incredible, really. I mean, the control that he had. I mean, I figured he would come out throwing the ball hard. I mean, he's completely fixed. His arm feels healthy. He's been through all the rehab. But to have the kind of command of all of his pitches, the way he did, it just looked effortless. And we're hoping for a whole lot more of that.
Strike 1 misses inside. 1 ball and 1 strike. I mean, it's water over the dam now, but when you go back to opening week for the Reds, when they opened against the Philadelphia Phillies, I remember here's DeSclafani to the stretch with the runner on first. Fouled at the plate. I remember sitting down with Brian Price the day before the season and asking him, okay, what do you think? He said, you know, first 2 months aren't going to be easy, but if we get these pitchers back, if we can find a way to tread water and somehow avoid disaster in the bullpen, that by the time we get to the All-Star break, we should be pretty good. Our pitching should come together. And unfortunately, it was prophetic because the bullpen was not able to stem the tide. And until they got these pitchers back, they weren't able to turn things around. And now that they have them back, it's a different ball club.
Well, they had guys in the bullpen, though, that weren't expected to be in the bullpen. You know, when you're talking about Iglesias and Lorenzen especially. And they weren't sure at the beginning of the year what Tony Cingrani was going to shake out. He ends up being their closer. So this is not even plan B or plan C or plan D for the Reds. It just happened, kind of fell together like this. And the Reds are very fortunate that it has come together because this was not the plan for the bullpen starting the season.
Jaso foul to the right side, 1 ball, 2 strikes. You saw Cody Reed there, and next to him was Brandon Finnegan. Well, what a start Finnegan had.
Last couple of starts for Finnegan.
6 innings, 2 hits against the Cardinals.
You know, you keep hearing murmurs that, you know, maybe in the long run, Brandon Finnegan would be better as a reliever than a starter. But I mean, he doesn't, based on his performances, want any part of that. Although if they do have to limit his innings this year, one way to do that is to not just shut him down completely when he gets to an innings limit, but, you know, put him in the bullpen like they did Michael Lorenzen last year.
Those are 2 young guys who came up believing that harder was better. And if they're going to be successful as starters, you got to understand, how do you tone it down a notch to drive on cruise control and be able to control your pitches and add movement.
Hardest thing for a young athlete to do is back off.
Hit deep to right center field. Hamilton back at the wall, looking up. It is caught. He held on. What a catch by Billy Hamilton. He juggled it twice and somehow came down with it before it hit the turf. A brilliant catch by Billy Hamilton. It looked like it might leave the ballpark. As it turns out, he gets a glove on it, juggles it, and holds on. Another look, Chris.
All the way back to the Heinz ketchup bottle, banging up against the fence, and juggled it and caught it on the way down. Wow.
Now the question is, did the ball at any time hit the wall? Clint Hurdle has asked the home plate umpire, the crew chief, Fielding Culbreth, to go in and talk to the other umpires, and they are discussing it. If it hit the wall, obviously the ball's in play. It appeared by that view, that it bounced out of the glove and then back into the glove, and he collared it.
So if they review it here, at least ask New York to review it, it would be a crew chief review.
Crew chief review. They're not going to take any chances. They will review it. And to their credit.
Well, back in the old days, what they would do is they'd all get together and they say, all right, did anybody see anything different or definitive? I'm not sure what angles they will have. They may have more angles than we have. Being the road team here, we don't have all the angles that have been accessible by the home TV.
All right.
Here's the slow-mo look, and you determine at home whether that ball hit the wall after it hit his glove.
Oh, it hits the wall. It does. It hit behind his shoulder, then off his shoulder, and then he catches it.
Yeah, that shouldn't take too long. Boy, Billy Hamilton hit that wall hard. In fact, so hard that he squeezed the ketchup right out of the ketchup bottle.
And this is a Pirates challenge. Clint Hurdle did ask officially for a challenge. And by that replay, it appears it's off the glove, against the wall, off his shoulder, and then into the glove. So it would be, now the next question would be, where do you place the runners? In all probability, you would say second and third. That's probably what they're going to try to take more time deciding here than just whether it's a ball in play or not.
That's a good point, really, because that, according to every umpire you talk to, is the most difficult thing about a play that is called an out and then later ruled not an out, where you place the runners. We're going to find out very shortly, it looks like.
And I don't know that even Billy knew exactly where it went. He knows it hit his shoulder after it bounced off his glove. But in any event, the replay appears to show that it hits the wall, then his shoulder, and then comes down in his glove. Still a tremendous effort by Hamilton. And great job on the replay that we see here.
Here we go.
Safe, second, and third. So Fielding Culbreth says safe, second. See, Billy thinks he caught it. Billy still thinks he caught it. And the argument you would imagine here, Chris, the argument is where you're placing the runners, and I don't see how you could do it any other way than put them at second and third.
Well, the only alternative would be put them at first and second.
Right, and that's what probably Brian Price's argument. But a ball off the wall.
Well, here's Jaso. He's running off the field at this point because he thinks that Billy Hamilton caught the ball and he's retired. Jaso is the batter runner at that point, obviously. Now he's going to be placed at second base. So he would have been at second. I think they made the right call, no doubt.
And that's what it's designed to do, and it appears that's where we've ended up with the correct call. That's the good news. The bad news for the Reds, that means it's second and third, nobody out here in the fifth. So John Jaso has been struggling big time, comes up with what amounts to a double to center field, puts runners at second and third, nobody out, and here comes Cervelli, who struck out first time up.
Reds infield back, and in the shortstop and second base, they'll trade an out for a run here.
Fly ball right field. Here comes Schebler charging. Runner tagging at third. Here comes the throw to the plate. Won't be in time. Both runners tag. A run scores. And Jaso goes from second to third. Schebler came up with a brilliant throw against the Cardinals to nail Holiday going into second. Doesn't get everything on this throw to the plate. It's a four-hopper that's cut. So a run will score. It's a sacrifice fly for Cervelli, his 24th run batted in. We're tied at 1, and there's a runner on third. That'll bring up the number 8 hitter, Jordy Mercer. Now the Reds and they're going to appeal down at second that the runner Jaso left early. The second base umpire Manny Gonzalez says no, he left in regulation. So Jaso's at third. And the Reds will bring the infield into the edge of the grass. Breaking ball to Mercer. Wide for ball 1. Jordy lined to right first time up. The pitcher Tyone is due up next, and there is activity in the bullpen. That's a strike. Tries to get him to fish it that down and away. Misses 2-1. The two guys who have been scuffling come through here. The double by Jaso, the sacrifice fly by Cervelli. Squeeze play. Bunt is down. A run scores, and they get the out at first. So an RBI for Mercer, his 39th of the season, and the Pirates take a 2-1 lead.
Well, the Pirates have made the most of their meager opportunities here in this inning. Mercer is a good handler of the bat, so Clint Hurdle calls on him to lay a bunt down and a suicide squeeze, and well, when you lay the bunt down right, there's nothing the defense can do about it.
Mercer gets the job done. Good job by Barnhart to get out there and get the out at first for the second out of the inning, and Tyone will come to the plate with now a lead of 2-1. He struck out first time up. Waves at that. That's a strikeout for DeSclafani. That's his 5th. But a walk, a double, a sacrifice fly, and a squeeze, and the Pirates have a 2-1 lead.
August 20th, thanks to Toyota, the first 25,000 fans will get a USA Reds t-shirt. Show your USA pride when you see your Reds take on the Dodgers for only $12. Tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com. The honors continue for Cincinnati's own Ken Griffey Jr. This weekend, the Mariners will retire his famed number 24, and they're flying a number 24 flag atop the Space Needle. And in fact, Jr. was up there to put that flag up. Terrific pictures coming out of Seattle. As again, the honors continue for now National Baseball Hall of Famer, Cincinnati's own Ken Griffey Jr.
And the Reds certainly proud of Junior getting into their Hall of Fame, and his speech very similar to the Reds Hall of Fame as it was in Cooperstown. And JD, I know everybody, those that were able to go there, I mean Rick Stowe, Gary Wayhoff, Rob Butcher from the on-field crew, and then of course everyone from upstairs just basked in the glory of Senior and Junior together, the whole family. And Mike Piazza's speech was brilliant as well. Oh, great summer for Piazza and for Griffey. This one looped into left by Adam Duvall, caught by Marte, and there's one away. Duvall struck out, fly to center, and fly to left. Here comes Brandon Phillips. He has the lone run-scoring hit for the Reds. In the first, if you joined us late, with one out, Cozart singled to left, Votto singled. And then after Duvall struck out, Phillips knocked in the Reds run to make it 1-0. Reds had a double by Barnhart in the second. Hamilton walked to put runners at first and second, but Cozart bounced out to end that stretch. And since then, Chris, it's been Taillon all the way. He allowed a base hit to Hamilton in the fifth. No harm there. That's the only blemish in the last 4 innings with this big right-hander on the mound.
He sure doesn't seem like a young man that is making only his 9th major league start. I mean, he looks very polished. Like he was actually drafted a year before Anthony DeSclafani was drafted. The difference, of course, was that DeSclafani came out of University of Florida. Taillon came out of high school outside of Houston.
Number 2 pick in 2010, drafted ahead of Manny Machado.
That was the year that the Reds picked Yasmani Grandal.
No balls, 2 strikes to Brandon. A one hopper off the glove of Mercer into left. That'll go as a base hit. So 2 more hits for the Reds second baseman tonight, coming after his 3-for-4 effort. He's in a groove.
I'll tell you, Mercer is really one of the last guys I would expect to try to field a ball like that. You talk to veteran infielders and they tell you, you know, backhands look great, but it is the last resort. You only want to backhand a ball when you can't get your body in front of it. Take a look right here. Did he have a chance to get over there? Absolutely he did. I just don't get it. I'm seeing more and more and more, and Mercer just stunned me by, he would be one of the last guys ever, I would think, to do that.
And if he keeps it in front, he probably does throw him out. But anyways, for the Reds, there's the tying run down at first. Here's Schebler, lined out, struck out, 0 for 2. You talk often about it, Chris, the evolution of young players and what does confidence mean. The other day you were talking about it with Tony Cingrani. Now 13 saves when he was struggling early in the year. How good he feels about himself, how his confidence has come back. And boy, you have to give Schebler credit after the rough start that he had in an uncomfortable role, not used to being a bench player, starting the year that way here. Go down and get his act together. Pretty impressive. Two balls, no strikes.
I mean, he had to feel when he was sent down there, he was disappointed. Because at that time, he probably didn't think ahead, thinking that Jay Bruce would be a trade candidate come the deadline. Maybe he did. But as you get closer and closer to that trade deadline, if you're an outfielder in the minor leagues, you're thinking, this is me. And when you become the International League Player of the Year for the month of July, it is you. So he had extra motivation knowing that he was going to come up here, and he's been told that he's going to get everyday playing time.
Well, with Jay Bruce gone, you can now look at both Duvall and Schebler. And now with 3 balls and 1 strike, they'll overshift to the right side. Or the shortstop Mercer to the second base side of the bag. Swing and a miss. Full count, 3-2.
As far as major league pitch per game totals, this is as far as Taillon has gone. Still not over into the 100 pitch mark, but close to it.
3-2. See if Phillips will be off and running with 1 out. He's going. Fouled and held on to at the plate by Cervelli, so it's a strikeout. That's strikeout number 6 for Taillon. A stolen base for Phillips, so he's in scoring position with the tying run out at second.
Well, a high fastball that, again, he gets Schebler to go after. Schebler chased one the last time up, and he goes right upstairs again. Schebler likes that ball up, but that ball's up and out of the zone there. You're going to have to bring the top of that zone down a little bit. I read a quote today, an old quote by Ted Williams, who said that, you know, there are really 3 strike zones. One is the pitcher's strike zone, one is the hitter's strike zone, one is the umpire's. And of course, the umpires is by definition of the rule book. The pitcher is where he likes to pitch the ball to get hitters out, and of course the hitter has to determine which pitches are in his zone, the ones that he can handle.
The process of growing up as a hitter. Here's Suarez, bounced out twice. Foul down the third baseline into the Pirates dugout. That's rattled around and had him diving out of the way. So for Phillips, that's his 7th stolen base of the season. He's been caught 6 times. The 2 of them could be a comedy act, Harrison and Phillips. Whenever they're on the same base or near any place, it's like an ongoing conversation. A little bit of ribbing, a little bit of fun. They both enjoy playing the game. 2 of the best smiles in baseball from those 2 guys too. Fastball up and in. 1-2. You're right, Chris. This young man shows a lot of poise. 24 years of age. 9th start. Nubbed wide to short. Mercer has it, and they'll get him by a step. So 3 ground balls off the bat of Suarez. The Reds strand their 6th runner and trail 2-1.
authority of the Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Hey, nobody sees sports quite like the way Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock do. The brains to know, the guts to say. Catch Colin and Jason for FS1's new daily sports talk show, Speak for Yourself, weeknights at 6 Eastern. Always entertaining. Always talking about the top sports stories of the day. Here's Josh Harrison. Bounced to second, single to left, and was out trying to steal in the third. He had the first hit for the Pirates on this night. They didn't get their second hit until the double by Jaso in the fifth. Pirates got 2 runs on only 1 hit in that 5th inning. By the way, speaking of television sports, if the reports are true, Chris, that Tom Jackson is retiring from NFL television, we want to say thanks, Tommy. You've been the best, and I've enjoyed over the years so many flights going from Cincinnati to Connecticut, sitting down talking baseball. He's a big Reds fan, obviously one of the best athletes and best people that we can boast of in the Cincinnati area. And if he is going to retire this year, he's done it with class. He's done it with intelligence. He's done it with an entertaining way about him, and he's the same guy he was as a player and a person. First-class guy, Tom Jackson.
Well, he's made Cincinnati his home for a long time, raised his family there, and I guess, George, 29 years of hopping on that plane and heading to the East Coast is just enough for him, huh? He's done a great job. I'm going to miss him, and maybe we'll see him around Cincinnati, down at the ballpark a little bit more now.
Yaron T. Of course, Jesse Jackson will be doing Bengals football next week. Minnesota comes in for an exhibition game, and the Bengals will be here on September the 18th to play the Steelers.
He doesn't just work Bengals football. He is on the field. The guy with the orange glove, the only one who is really higher on the totem pole than the referees.
You've heard of the Love Glove? He's got the Love Glove.
When are the Steelers coming?
The Bengals come here September the 18th. That's the first time they meet. This went down the right field line, and it'll be foul into the seats.
Bengals will be playing in London in late October, I believe.
Tough trip. Here's Marte. They've handled him so far pretty well. Strikeout and a ground out 0 for 2. In fact, in his career, he's only a .230 hitter against the Reds. Dribble down to short. You got unloaded fast. He can motor. They get him by a step. No, DeSclafani, after the leadoff walk, created the trouble in the 5th. Then the double, a sacrifice fly, and a squeeze play produced the 2 runs. He struck out the final batter and gets 2 quick outs here in the 6th.
Well, he's already had three batter innings. And he's on the verge right now of having one more. Would have had a 3-batter inning in the first inning, except for an error. He's had a really easy time of it, and he has kept his pitch count under control.
This will be his 94th pitch of the night. McCutchen's been on twice without the benefit of a hit. Reached on the error by Suarez in the first, and drew the first walk issued by DeSclafani in the 4th. But was erased on a double play ground ball.
Yeah, you may be wondering what's gotten into McCutchen. Why is he slumping like that? And you may say, well, are they pitching him differently? Actually, they're pitching him more fastballs than ever before. And more fastballs in the zone, and he's just unable to catch up to those. As you see right there, fouled that one back. Against DeSclafani, he's throwing in the mid-90s anyway, but he also has kind of late movement on it.
It sure is a game of adjustments, isn't it?
Constant.
I mean, they were pounding Joey Votto in, up and in early in the year. Part of that was the success they had against him, and part of it was his reaction to that. Then he figured it out.
Well, DeSclafani is pitching McCutchen in this at bat the same way pitchers would like to be able to pitch Joey Votto. I mean, come in there time after time. But the problem is it is so much easier for a right-hander to throw the ball here as opposed to here. And that's the big difference between being able to get it in on a righty versus a lefty. Votto is so geared for that pitch on the middle of the plate out that he's pretty much a line drive machine if you get the ball out there.
So dialing them up battle here for the 100th pitch of the night. DeSclafani against McCutchen. 3-2. And he's on for the third time, and the second time via a walk. Third walk issued by DeSclafani. 2 outs, 1 on, and here's Matt Joyce. The Reds will overshift. This time they'll send Suarez all the way into the normal second base slot into short right field with Joyce at the plate. Cozart's the shortstop in tight, and Phillips by second base. That's a strike. There goes the runner. Swing and a miss. The throw won't be nearly in time. He got a big break on DeSclafani, and Barnhart had no chance. So a stolen base for McCutchen and a runner in scoring position.
Well, McCutchen steals as he gets it on a changeup right here, way ahead of time. If he gets up in a hurry and runs to third base, nobody's there to cover. It wasn't after until he kind of got up and brushed himself off that finally Zach Cozart started to run over towards the third base.
So McCutchen, good speed at second. No balls, 2 strikes to Joyce. Joyce was originally drafted by Detroit, traded to Tampa Bay, and after 1 year in Los Angeles and Anaheim, signed as a free agent with the Pirates. That was this February. It wasn't until late this offseason. Two balls, 2 strikes to tonight's right fielder for the Pirates. Now at 105 pitches, you figure either way this will very likely be DeSclafani's last inning. Action now in the Reds bullpen. That's a call, strike 3. Joyce doesn't like the call, flips the bat. The runner stranded. Reds still trail by 1-2-1. Barnhart to lead it off. Time for our Honda game summary. 2-1 lead for the Buccos. Reds had 3 hits in the first inning, culminating with a Brandon Phillips base hit to make it 1-0 Cincinnati. After that, they struggled for runs. Meanwhile, the Pirates came back. A leadoff walk to freeze. Jaso's double, and it bounced off Hamilton and then the wall. It was challenged by the Pirates, ruled it was not an out, it was a double. That produced a run on a sacrifice fly by Cervelli. Then the squeeze play to Jordy Mercer gave the Pirates the lead 2-1. So he added up 2 runs, only 2 hits for the Pirates. The 2 hits, the double that you saw by Jaso, and a base hit by Josh Harrison back in the third. So they've made the most of their opportunities. The Reds have 6 hits, and they've stranded 6 since the first inning. The most they've had on base at any one time is 1 base runner. So Jameson Taillon's day is done. He goes 6 strong innings, strikes out 6, allows those 6 hits. He gives way to Felipe Rivero. Chris, this hard throwing left-hander could be the potential closer of the future.
Yeah, he could be. He's already been around a few years, not like he just broke in this year. He's 24 years old now, pitching in his 100th major league game tonight. Hard throwing left-hander from San Felipe, Venezuela.
There's Barnhart. And to complete the double switch, Adam Frazier will go to right field. So Frazier's your right fielder. And Rivero's in to pitch. His bullpen now has Antonio Bastardo, veteran left-hander, Rivero, left-hander, and of course now the closer Tony Watson, who took over the closer's role, one time the setup man for Mark Melancon. Caminero, Felice, Hughes, Nicasio from the right side.
Rivero was used a lot by Dusty Baker to finish off games that were not save situations. They were up by 4 more runs. He come in and pitched an inning or 2 at the very end and did a fine job. He's always had right around as many strikeouts as innings pitched.
2 balls, 2 strikes. That's a call, strike 3, and Barnhart knew it. That's strikeout number 1 for Rivero. That certainly solidifies what was a tenuous bullpen situation for Dusty Baker and the Nationals, huh?
Well, it does. I mean, the whole issue really was whether Papelbon was going to be able to be the closer on a championship club, and he had sprung some leaks. So you bring in Melancon, they move Papelbon down a notch, and Melancon, if he's anywhere near as consistent as he has been in Pittsburgh, they're not going to have a problem in Washington.
And the question that Pirate fans ask, why do you trade your number 1 closer? And part of that story again is the medium market club looking at a free agent come next year that will, a qualifying offer at the least would be over $16 million, and they're probably not going to pay that. And that was Ivan De Jesus pinch hitting in the pitcher spot.
That was only one of the moves that the Pirates fans have questioned. I mean, you trade your closer away, or you're mailing it in the rest of the way. But you're also planning ahead. I don't think that move's an awful move. I think it makes a lot of sense, actually, especially when you got a quality left-handed arm like Rivero in return.
Line drive fouled on the right field line.
The deal that most of the Pirate fans are kind of scratching their heads about is sending Francisco Liriano, even as bad as he was this year, who had a big contract, to Toronto with a couple of young prospects. And they've said all along here in Pittsburgh that our prospects are our pride. We're going to keep them whenever possible. Well, in order to have the Blue Jays take over the contract, you got to give them something of value.
Missing on the outside corner, 1 ball, 2 strikes to Ivan De Jesus.
Hey, if you like that 98 miles an hour, get used to it. Just think of what we've seen in the last 5 years.
You're right.
Where if somebody ever hit 98 5 years ago, we're oohing and ahhing and we're playing that pitch over and over again. Now we're ho-hum. Here comes another one. And there are more and more coming up through the amateur ranks.
Long, lanky left-hander to the stretch. Wide. And it's 2-2.
I think it's going to change the way you scout pitchers a lot. Because when the phenomenon of hard throwers are first hit, and that's the first thing you talk about a pitcher is how hard he throws. Well, the second thing you talk about if he throws that hard, is he going to be subject to an elbow injury? And thirdly, can he control it?
2 balls, 2 strikes. Hardy on the fastball, and back-to-back strikeouts. 2 away. Hey, cheer on your Reds when they take on the Dodgers August 19th through the 22nd. Thanks to Reach Magazine, you can catch all the action and save with the 4 for $48 ticket offer. Get 4 view level tickets and 4 Reds hats for only $48. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/4 for $48. The 2 away. Here's Billy Hamilton on via the walk and via a base hit. Billy also picked up a stolen base. That was in the 5th, but was left stranded at second. And we will keep it here at the end of this half inning for the Pirates honoring on Stand Up for Cancer Night, honoring those who battle a disease that touches all of our families. No balls, 2 strikes. Down to third, charging his Freeze, sidewinding throw, gets him by a step. So the Reds go quietly in the 7th, 1-2-3 with 2 strikeouts for Rivero. We'll keep it right here for a Stand Up for Cancer Night.
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask you now to please rise. When you walked into the ballpark this evening, you received a placard from Stand Up to Cancer, on which you wrote the name of someone in your life who has been affected by cancer. We ask you now to take out your placard and hold it up high as we take a solid stand together in the fight against cancer. And we ask for a moment of silence as we honor the memories of those who have lost their battles and pray for strength and courage for those whose battles are ongoing. Thank you. Now, fans, it's time for the 7th inning stretch. We invite you to follow the bouncing Clark Smiley for you as we sing "Take Me Out to the Ballgame."
takes over on the hill for the Reds. And Michael Lorenzen might have noticed this season wearing a different number. That would be number 21. Now, Michael Lorenzen, you know, is very strong in his faith, and one of his idols was Roberto Clemente, and that was heightened this offseason when he went on a mission to Puerto Rico and got to know the Clemente family, so much so that he took part in a free camp and went to the Clemente house and had dinner with the family, including Mrs. Clemente, Vera. And he said at that dinner that if I get the chance, someday I'm going to wear number 21 to honor Roberto Clemente. Not long after that, Todd Frazier, who used to wear number 21, was traded away, and he asked Rick Stowe, told him the story, can I wear number 21? And he said, even though I'm a second-year player, they allowed me to wear it. So December 31st, 1972, Roberto Clemente was lost in a plane crash en route to delivering aid to earthquake victims in Nicaragua. And Michael Lorenzen said instead of using the game to glorify yourself, he used the game to give to people. And that's how I want to be remembered.
That tells you a lot about the young man, and certainly the story of Roberto Clemente is a remarkable one. And here's the new pitcher for the Reds, Michael Lorenzen, dealing to David Freese, who flied out and walked. And I don't know, I mean, Chris, we honor certainly Jackie Robinson with his number retired, and there's long been a movement, and I've been supportive of it from the beginning, that Roberto's number should be forever retired too, for what he did representing the game of baseball among Spanish-speaking fans and those from Latin America. It is as important as what Jackie Robinson did here.
Agreed. Good point.
No, it's funny. You look at the Pirate record book, and Roberto Clemente wound up with an even 3,000 hits. There's a liner into center field. That's a base hit. So Freese is on for the second time, a base hit here in the 7th inning to center field, and that'll bring up Jaso, who's got the biggest hit of the night, a fly ball to right center field that Billy Hamilton had glance off his glove, bounce against the wall, and then back into his glove. The Pirates, after it was ruled an out, challenged the call. The challenge was upheld. The out was negated. That put runners at second and third. A sacrifice fly by Cervelli plated one, and Mercer Squeeze plated the other. Those are the only 2 runs that the Pirates have. But Jaso's 1 for 2. But the other part of the Clemente story, which is really interesting, especially in light of the fact Bill Guilfoyle, the former public relations head here in Pittsburgh, and a man who for many years was the vice president of communication at the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. When Bill was here in the 60s and early 70s, he later became the PR director of the Yankees before going to Cooperstown. Bill Verdon was the manager of the Pirates in 1972, and Roberto didn't feel good the last day of the season, and Bill Verdon didn't put him in the lineup the final day of the season. And Bill Guilfoyle went up to Bill Verdon and said, you know, Roberto Clemente's only 1 hit away from 3,000. I mean, you thought he'd be back next year to get it anyways. So as it turns out, Roberto did play in that game, did get a base hit, which would be his 3,000th base hit. There's a looper into left. Duvall there, got it, and there's 1 away. So Bill Guilfoyle had a hand in eventually. I mean, he would have made the Hall of Fame anyways. There's no doubt about that. And we tell that story for 2 reasons. First, to honor Roberto, but also to remember Bill Guilfoyle, who passed away in Notre Dame, Indiana last week. What a tremendous asset to the game of baseball he was here in Pittsburgh, then again in New York, and for many years in Cooperstown. One away. Here's Cervelli. The sacrifice fly by Cervelli tied the game at 1 in the 5th. That's his 24th run batted in. He has more runs batted in than anyone else in baseball without hitting a homer. He has no home runs and 24 knocked in.
Goes to show you how important home runs are.
It's getting them across the plate somehow. Pirates on the year have hit pretty well. They've been 3rd, 4th, or 5th in average. They've been in the same respect in walks. but that's dropped in the last month. Clint Hurdle has seen his offense stall, and their pitching run into a roadblock too. And it's seen them drop to 500 and 12.5 games back in the Central. This one lined in the left. That's a base hit. Hit hard by Cervelli. So there's 2 on, 1 out here in the 7th.
Well, the Pirates have turned on the fastball in this inning. That was a 95-mile-an-hour heater. David Freese made solid contact with a 95 or so mile-an-hour heater up the middle. Cervelli can hit a fastball. I mean, he has got a short, compact swing. He's the kind of guy that you need to really feather that outside corner a little bit more. Good news is you're down here in the bottom of the order.
Except Frazier's the number 9 hitter now. So Mercer and then Frazier, who came in on the double switch. Mercer, his contribution, a line drive to right, and then the squeeze play that knocked in the go-ahead run. So 1 out, middle of the infield double play depth for the Reds. That's a strike. We've talked a lot about the Reds bullpen numbers, and Michael Lorenzen and Raisel Iglesias, 2 of the architects of what has been a solid bullpen for the Reds. A bullpen that had an ERA of over 6 in April, nearly 5 in May, nearly 5 in June, and July 2.45. That's a big turnaround.
Good breaking ball there. You know, it's interesting. Those 3 guys that matter the most at the back end of the Reds bullpen are all former starters. Cingrani, Raisel Iglesias, opening day starter this year, and Michael Lorenzen, who was a reliever in college, but a starter in the minor leagues and the major leagues first time through.
97 swing and a miss, second out of the inning. Strikeout number 1 for Lorenzen, and that'll bring up Frazier.
You know, it just seems to me that Lorenzen has begun to simplify his approach a little bit. He told me before the game today, you know, it's a mental thing that he really started over the winter last year. But just watching from pitch selection, he's not messing around with a lot of the extra pitches, no cutters and curveballs and stuff, although he may have dropped the curveball in there at 80 miles an hour in that at bat to Mercer. But I mean, it's mainly fastball, slider, cutter here in short relief.
That's a loop to the left side, just foul. Since coming up, Frazier has a .328 average, a homer, 7 knocked in. He started in right field Thursday night, had a run scoring single in the 3rd inning. Hit hard down to short. They'll get the out at second. That'll do it. So a couple of base hits, but Lorenzen dodges the bullet. Reds to the bottom, to the top of 8, still trailing. Thanks, Pick. Boy, you are right. And if you get a chance around the Cincinnati area, the Reds are hosting 24 baseball and softball teams in the reviving baseball in the inner cities, the RBI World Series. It's the first time in the 24-year history that it's going to be in Cincinnati. And it just, I mean, it's a tremendous, Chris, you and I have been part of this for years, and just to watch the young people that have experienced it and to watch these athletes come to town, it's pretty new. It's pretty neat. The playoff games are at Xavier, P&G Cincinnati MLB Youth Academy, and Great American Ballpark. The Reds have chimed in. The RBI folks in New York just amazed at how the Reds have stepped up. Bob Castellini and Phil Castellini have really not just embraced it, but they've opened their arms to make it a very special week plus.
Well, the whole thing that Major League Baseball has done about the RBI program and the way that it has really just blown up. Teams from all over now, down in the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, all around the United States. I think it's just a wonderful program. The next step, obviously, is to get these young men, into college and play college baseball. But the sad fact is, until college baseball teams are allowed to have more than 11.7 scholarships per team, that's simply not going to happen.
Here's the right-handed reliever Neftali Feliz, who's in here in the 8th inning as Cozart bounces out to Sean Rodriguez, the new first baseman. And here's Joey Votto tonight. By the way, Cozart 1 for 4. That base hit his first time up, stretched his hitting streak to 13. In the first, Cozart singled, Votto singled, and then Phillips singled to produce the Reds' lone run. Joey, after that base hit to left in the first, bounced out, flied out, 1 for 3. Still a pretty formidable bullpen, Chris, when you have Tony Watson at the end of it. We've watched Tony Watson for so many years be not just a serviceable, but at times a spectacular setup guy. But can you do it consistently in the 9th inning? That's something you only find out when you do it.
Well, you're right, but I've never been one of these guys to think that you should put too much into your closer, because the guys who pitch in the 7th and 8th innings are really just as important, especially given the fact where you are in the lineup. Now, there are some managers, and most every manager would love to have the best closer. Everybody wants Mariano Rivera out in their bullpen, so that when you get to the 9th inning, it's automatic. But when you start comparing closers' close rate, you see that a lot of the extra stuff, the strikeouts, for instance, are all fluff. Because if a guy that strikes out the side closes at the same percentage rate that a guy that doesn't strike out the side, well, all the difference is you're maybe getting free pizzas one night and not them on the other night.
Good analogy. 3-2 to Votto after being down 3-0. Feliz is battled back. There's ball 4. Joey takes the walk.
For Joey, that's the first walk of the night. But for him on the season, 79 walks on the year for Votto. His on-base percentage really never slumped. Throughout the first part of the season, even though he was hitting miserably, his on-base percentage was still tops on this ball club. And the Reds are second last in walks received as a team this year, despite having Votto have 79 of them. They have 292 overall. So I think some of these other guys on this ball club could learn a little bit by watching Joey Votto.
Bryce Harper leads the league. Joey's second. Harper with 82 going into tonight. So Votto's on, representing the tying run. Here's Duvall. Strikeout, fly ball to center, fly ball to left. Facing Feliz. The righty to the stretch. Votto off first. Grounded down to short. 6-4. Not in time to first. Good hustle. A lazy turn at second enabled Duvall, who was hustling down the line, to beat it out and keep the Reds alive here in the 8th.
Looked like a DP lane ground ball all the way right here. 6-4-3 is easy. And I don't know whether it was lazy. It looked like it was just a double clutch in the glove that maybe Harrison couldn't get the ball out.
One other thing you always notice is that Duvall is deceptively quick. I mean, he really runs hard and he's fast. One of the reasons why he's such a good outfielder.
So Duvall's on with 2 away now. And here comes Brandon. Brandon, 2 more hits tonight, and the Reds' lone run batted in the first inning. The average back over 270 at 271. He's in an 0-2 hole here. High 97 miles an hour. That's a ball 1-2. Don't forget tomorrow Homer Bailey against Ivan Nova will be on the air with Reds Live at 6:30. The games follow at 7. Sunday it's Dan Straley against Garrett Cole. Reds Live at 1 o'clock. Game 135. Short lead Duvall. And Brandon battles back. Now full count 3-2. Second full count of the inning. He walked Votto on a 3-2 pitch. And here he is with Phillips, with Schebler due up next. There goes the runner. Check swing. Did he go? No. And that's ball 4. 2 walks in the inning. That puts the potential tying run out at second. And here comes Scott Schebler. Hey, Reds fans, enjoy a fun day at the ballpark on Saturday, September the 3rd, with a special post-game concert featuring country music artist Chase Rice. For as low as $32, you get a ticket to the game, a Reds trucker hat, and the opportunity to enjoy the concert from the field. Purchase today at reds.com/Chase Rice. Now the Scott have magic in that bat again. Schebler tonight lined out, struck out, struck out. He's had a remarkable last 5 weeks. Player of the month down at Louisville and in the International League. Made his return felt immediately with a walk-off home run. How about this one, Chris?
I mean, an absolute bomb. What he's done tonight, though, is chase a couple of pitches that are up and out of the zone. Boy, that was a jubilant, kind of a welcome home party for Scott Schebler at home plate.
And now it's 2-0.
Natives are getting a little restless here at PNC.
And Ray Searage is going to come out and just try to slow things up a bit to his fireballing right-handed reliever, Neftali Feliz.
He walks out there, doesn't he? Just the perfect picture of calm. He's earned the moniker among baseball players as the pitcher whisperer.
Yep.
But it's only part of the thing here with Pittsburgh. You know, Ray Searage is more of a mental approach guy to the game, trying to get guys back on track mentally.
The guy that they lost to the Florida Marlins over the winter, Jim Benedict.
Oh, yeah.
Who was hired by the Marlins. Really a shrewd move by the Marlins to pick him up. Is just a guru when it comes to pitching mechanics and straightening pitchers out. And he and Searage together had some remarkable results. Question is, can Searage duplicate that with the loss of Benedict? A lot of times it's those guys behind the scenes that don't get a lot of pub that are doing all the grunt work in the ditches and really getting it done.
2-0, right down the pike, swing and a miss. 2 balls, 1 strike. And being around Ray Searage, Chris, he reminds you a lot of one of our favorite pitching coaches over the years. That's Don Gullett when he was with the Reds. I mean, soft-spoken, but in the same respect, he held his pitchers accountable. And all it took was a whisper here, a whisper there to straighten him out. And whatever he said has worked for 2 straight strikes. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 on, 2 out. That leads to the stretch. Swing and a miss. He got him. Well, whatever Searage said, it was the magic bullet. As the Reds stranded 2 more, they've stranded 8 through 8, trail 2-1.
For the fences, but Adrian Gonzalez and the Dodgers are out to show some power of their own. The action begins Saturday at 4 Eastern, or you can watch it live on Fox Sports Go. Tremendous moment. We've seen it at the All-Star game. Stand Up to Cancer Night. Players and fans standing with someone that's been affected in their life. And I would like to give a personal thanks to Billy Hatcher. One of those cards he's holding is his dad. The other is the name of my sister, Pamela Farley. Unsolicited, Billy came up to me today and said, do you have anyone in your family that's been affected that you'd like to honor? And I said, certainly. My sister is a stage 4 breast cancer survivor. So Billy, thank you very much for the gesture. It was tremendous. And Pamela, sis, you're a battler. Love you.
And she had to put up with you too all those years, didn't she?
Well, she's the oldest and I'm the youngest of 5. So yes, indeed.
JD, you know, you talk about cancer. When it affects a person, it affects the whole family, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. And on social media, I'm actually corresponding with a lot of people that are going through it right now, George. So it's one of those things that unfortunately comes along in life, and it'll certainly change everything in an instant. And we send out our prayers and thoughts to everyone that's dealing with it right now.
It unfortunately touches almost all of our lives, and our prayers and thoughts go out to all of you who are dealing with the battle against cancer on this night and every night, Chris.
You're right. It's everywhere you turn. But the cures, I shouldn't say the cures, the treatments anyway, are getting more and more advanced. more and more people are able to look cancer in the eye and win.
Here's Blake Wood to take over in the bottom of the 8th inning. He strikes out Josh Harrison for the first out of the inning. If you joined us late, Anthony DeSclafani pitched outstandingly again. 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, and 3 walks. The only blemish on his night came in the 5th. A leadoff walk to Freeze. A fly ball by Jaso to right center field that Billy Hamilton, leaping against the wall, had it glance off his glove. At first he bobbled it and they called it an out. There's a bouncer behind second and that'll go as a base hit. Starling Marte gets his first hit of the night. He's 1 for 4. But the ball on replay, when it was challenged by the Pirates, showed that it hit the wall, so it went as a double. That put runners at second and third. Cervelli followed with a sacrifice fly and Mercer followed with a squeeze bunt. And those are the 2 runs that the Pirates had. Well, Marte gets the base hit. And here's McCutchen. McCutchen's been on all 3 times he's been at the plate. 2 walks, a stolen base, and he reached on an error back in the 1st. Marte, 37 stolen bases. One of the best base stealers in the league.
He's only 1 behind Billy Hamilton, 2nd place. Jonathan Villar with the Milwaukee Brewers in the lead.
And only a few stolen bases behind Billy since they entered the league in the last 4 years. His 37th stolen base was the 150th of his career. Pitch out, nothing going. One ball, 1 strike. Marte tumbling back to first and gets back there safely. There he goes. Throw to second will not be in time. Into center. He's on his way to third, and he'll get to third.
Yeah, it looks like that Barnhart comes up throwing short hops. The second baseman Brandon Phillips on that. Phillips may got the worst of that as the hard slide by Marte went right in there, and he may have grazed him on his glove forearm. Phillips a little slow to get up. I guess he's all right, but Marte ends up on third base as that throw goes into center field.
So it'll go as a stolen base and an error on the catcher Barnhart to allow the runner to go to third. That'll force the Reds to bring the infield in.
That's a huge play. That's one of my pet peeves, and it's a huge play to allow that ball to go into center field.
Trying to get a glove on it and not block it.
Get a body in front of it. I mean, the throw has to be perfect to get Marte. And maybe there are a lot of people that disagree with me, but you know, when you see that throw not being perfect, the chances of you picking it and getting the tag down aren't as good as that ball going into center field. And now he's 90 feet away. A fly ball by McCutchen makes it a 2-run game.
That's a call.
Pitch by
Strike
Wood.
3. Buster right down the upper part of the strike zone. That's a strikeout number 2 of the inning. Second out of the inning. 2 away.
Well, there's no lack of velocity in the arm of Blake Wood, that's for sure. And this has got to be kind of bittersweet for him. Not bittersweet, but just super sweet. Because with Blake Wood that all year last year labored in the minor leagues for the Indianapolis team, the AAA franchise for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and never got called up. He was their closer down there, and he had a really good first half. And through all the different pitching moves the Pirates made, they never called on Wood. The Reds signed him in the offseason, the only major league deal in the free agent market the Reds did in the offseason. And he's been in the bullpen all year long.
And last year he had 29 saves down at Indianapolis and thought all year long that the call was going to come. It never did. And the Reds signed him this offseason.
So he gives you a little extra incentive out there. Say, I'm going to show you right here in a big ball game why you should have called me up.
They send up Polanco to pinch hit in the pitcher spot, and he will be walked intentionally. So that'll put runners at first and third with 2 outs. And Wood will deal with Freese. Freese tonight, fly to center, walked to start the rally in the 5th, and later wound up scoring the tying run. And then he singled in the 7th. So Wood to the stretch, Marte off third, Polanco off first. That's a strike, 0-1. You're looking at the top of 9, bottom of the order due up for the Reds. Suarez, Barnhart, and then the number 9 spot. Fly ball right field, curving towards the corner. It will go foul. Freese gave it a long ride, but it drifted foul by about 20 feet. Over his career, Freese has been a problem for the Reds. His career average is over 300 against Cincinnati. In his days with the Cardinals, he came up with some big hits. Of course, Chris, in his days with the Cardinals, he came up with a lot of big hits. Then injuries surfaced. Fell out of favor in St. Louis. Shipped to the American League, and now back here, and he's had a rebirth year. Pop up into right. Back goes Phillips. Who's going to take charge? Schebler will. He'll glove it, and that'll do it. So a single and a walk, no harm. Last roundup for the Reds. Suarez will lead it off. of the game. Let's go back in history. We'll talk about it, Chris. The drive of the game. Let's go back to September 30th of 1972, the final game of the season for Roberto Clemente. Hit number 3,000, the 3,000th hit of his career on the final day of the 1972 season. He, of course, perished in the plane crash, sending relief aid to Nicaragua, and his number commemorated here in so many ways. The statue, brilliant statue of him outside the ballpark. The wall in right field where the scoreboard is 21 feet tall, and the scoreboard marquee honoring him with number 21, Roberto Clemente, one of the greatest players ever to play the game and a great humanitarian as well.
No doubt.
Here's the closer now taking over for Mark Melancon. Tony Watson picked up his first save after Melancon left this past week, and he takes over his 47th appearance of the season. He's been money in the bank, hasn't he?
Well, he's been so good for so long. Tony Watson has, and this is where we go to this. What we talked about a lot is that how that 8th inning, Feliz comes in and faces the middle of the order, and Watson, the closer, now comes in and faces 7, 8, 9 in the order.
Suarez 0 for 7 against Watson in their matchups. Barnhart to follow. He is 0 for 1 against him. Pirates have passed the baton in the closer's role. Jason Grilli had that role. He was traded, passed it to Mark Melancon. Melancon now in Washington, and Tony Watson, once combining with Melancon on one of the best lefty-righty 1-2 punches in all of baseball, has taken over this closer's role. Fastball misses inside. The Reds get the potential tying run on here in the 9th. Good at bat by Suarez to work a walk. And here's Barnhart. The switch hitting Ramon Cabrera comes out on the on deck circle. The Reds have the switch hitting Cabrera. De Jesus they've already used. Right-handed swingers Tyler Holt and Tony Renda on the bench. Barnhart showing bunt wide for ball 1.
That was the question I had for you, George Graham, whether Brian Price would play at the try to tie the ball game here in the 9th inning. You got to ask yourself, if you're Brian Price, what are our chances of getting more than one hit in an inning against Tony Watson?
Bunt fouled off.
Obviously trying to push that bunt down the first baseline.
The only players that have had success against Watson, Brandon Phillips has a homer against him. Votto's .294, 5 for 17. Cabrera's 2 for 2, and Cozart's 3 for 10. Everybody else has struggled against this guy, and one of those sitting in the on deck circle, that's Cabrera. Big swing, 1-2. Is it caught? No, it's not. It's off Watson's glove. It's a fair ball, and they get the out. What a play by Cervelli. The ball glanced off the glove of Watson into foul territory. Cervelli barehanded it, somehow got an accurate throw off to first. It'll go as a sacrifice, but this is a great play by Cervelli.
The Reds get a break and a bad break in the same play. The break is that the good break is that the pitcher didn't come up with the pop-up. The bad break is the terrific play by the Pirates catcher. Meanwhile, Suarez is standing on second base. If that glove is, or that ball is gloved by Watson, it's an easy double play. But now the tying run's on second base.
And here comes Cabrera to pinch hit. So it goes as a sacrifice. It'll go 1 to 2 to 3. And Cabrera will come in and pinch hit in the 9th spot, batting for Wood. Ramon trying to get the runner home. Suarez out at second, turns around, peers at the outfielders. They're all in normal distance with only one out. In tight in center, about a step or two, is McCutchen. Frazier a step in right, and Marte at his normal spot in left. Marte's got a great arm. That's wide. 2-0. Cabrera this year 1 for 8 as a pinch hitter. Here goes the runner. Here comes the throw, not in time, and the runner's safe at third.
Watson not even paying one bit of attention to Suarez, and what a heads-up play. I don't think that's called from the bench. That is something Suarez did on his own. Nobody there to cover him, nobody jockeying him back. Watson takes one look, goes to the plate. Cervelli doesn't have a chance.
Now they'll bring the infield in. Edge of the grass with 1 out. 2 balls and 1 strike to the pinch hitter, Ramon Cabrera. Up high, and it's 3-1. Cabrera, long look at Billy Hatcher down at third. I mean, you play for a win on the road, yes. But the Reds right now will take anything they can to get this run home. Here's a fly ball. Marte there tagging at third, and it'll be in the seats.
I think at the last moment he realized I shouldn't catch this ball.
Yep.
But if it had been a very catchable ball, he probably would have tried, and it would have been a bad idea, especially when he's on the run right here.
If Marte gets it right there, he's in position to throw. If he's got to lean over, the run would have scored easily.
I don't think he's throwing out Suarez no matter what, not with his momentum going to the stands.
So it's a full count, 3-2. Infield tight. Cabrera battling, trying to get the runner in from third.
Watson going for a strikeout.
This one to right, tagging at third is Suarez. Backing up is Marte. No chance. And a great job by Cabrera. Sacrifice fly gets the run home. And we are tied at 2 here in the top of the 9th inning. The Reds manufacture one.
Well, they get a leadoff walk, and it comes around to really burn the Pirates right here. Great base running by Eugenio Suarez. Good level swing by Cabrera. That ball was hit right on the button.
Good short swing. Marte had no chance as he was backing up, and Suarez scores easily to tie it at 2. Second out of the inning, and here's Billy. Swing and a miss. So a blown save for the closer, Tony Watson, and the Reds have tied it here in the 9th. Hamilton's been on base twice, a walk and a single, and a stolen base. For the Reds, the big righty Ross Ohlendorf loosening. Swing and a miss. Hamilton retired, but the Reds do some business. All those leadoff walks. One hurt the Reds earlier. This one helped the Reds. Ohlendorf's on his way in, tied at 2. to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices, all at Kroger. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And don't forget, get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before every game right here with Reds Live, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Tomorrow's Reds Live starts at 6:30 as Homer Bailey will make his second start of the season. Catch all the action right here on Fox Sports Ohio or stream it live on Fox Sports Go. Last time out, Chris, Homer came back in a big way, didn't he?
Boy, he did, and he was very impressive out in San Diego. First time he had been on the mound in a long time, coming back from Tommy John surgery. And the long-awaited start of Homer Bailey, he did not disappoint one bit. He will be facing a young right-hander who will be making his Pirate debut. Ivan Nova, recently acquired from the New York Yankees.
Well, here's Ross Ohlendorf. He'll take over as we go to the bottom of 9.
For Ohlendorf, this has always got to be an emotional time to come back and pitch in Pittsburgh. After all, after 9 years or parts of 9 seasons in the major leagues, the majority of time in one team was by far with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He started 64 games for the Pirates between 2008 and 2010.
One ball, one strike for Ohlendorf against Sean Rodriguez, who came in at first base. It's up high, 2-1.
There's been no lack of relievers out of the Reds bullpen with throwing gas tonight. I mean, really coming out with Michael Lorenzen throwing 95, 96. Same for Blake Wood, even harder. And then Ohlendorf is another hard thrower.
This one hit deep to left. Forget it. He threw it hard. He hit it hard. Sean Rodriguez, a walk-off home run here in the bottom of 9. And for the 24th time this year, a Reds reliever gets socked with the first batter they face. A home run by Rodriguez in the bottom of 9 gives the Pirates a 3-2 walk-off win. Our Miller Time moment brought to you by Miller Lite. After a well-pitched ball game, Chris, here in the bottom of 9, one swing by Sean Rodriguez tells the story.
It seemed like Ohlendorf supplied the power and the elevation. All Rodriguez had to do was put the barrel of the bat on it, and man, oh man, did he hit it. A lot of fans here tonight at PNC Park. They waited around and saw a dramatic walk-off victory. That's too bad, especially after the way the Reds battled back in the top of the 9th to tie this baby up.
Remarkable. 28,887 at the ballpark in Pittsburgh. The Pirates fans lead with a smiling side of the scoreboard, and the Reds bitten here in the 9th. A great pitching battle between Anthony DeSclafani, 6 innings, 2 hits and 2 runs. Jameson Taillon, 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 run. The Reds tie it in the top of 9, but Rodriguez home run to lead off the bottom of the 9th inning. And we've seen this all too often this year with a Reds reliever coming in, the first batter they face. Trouble, trouble, trouble. All told, added up, Sean Rodriguez, second career walk-off homer. The last one was back 2 years ago against Oakland. And here, a walk-off homer ends it. The final 3-2. The Pirates beat the Reds. Coming up, Reds Live, presented by Performance Kings Honda.